Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Lollipop and today we're going to be covering the differences between the 2021 Trek Marlin 4 and 5 and the 2021 Trek 820. Now some of you may not even know about the 820 at all, so I'll give a quick background on both of these bikes and their intended purposes before giving my comparison, which will cover all of the main components of these bikes like the suspension forks, the brakes, and the drivetrains. And of course, I'll be completing this table at the end of the video, which shows all of the differences in one place. And when I show that, I'll also talk about which bike you should get depending on your riding style. And if you want to see more videos like these, definitely check out my channel since I have tons of comparison videos such as this one on the Trek Dual Sport and Marlin bikes. So the Trek Marlin bikes are basically Trek's entry-level mountain bikes, designed to be good for beginners looking to get into mountain biking, or for people who want a commuter bike that is more durable and rugged than a road or hybrid bike. They all have mounts for a kickstand and for a rear rack, which definitely makes them more versatile. The 820 is just a single bike that is less expensive than any Marlin, and although it is classified as a mountain bike, it is definitely more entry level and used as more of a commuter or hybrid bike than an actual beginner mountain bike. It also has mounts for a rear rack, but no mounts for a kickstand, although certain kickstands can still be installed. All of these bikes do have women's specific versions available, but there aren't any differences between the components on the bikes except for a women's oriented seat for the women's Marlins and a completely different frame for the women's 820 that is just easier to step over. And before we get into the comparison, I do want to point out that the Trek Marlin bikes have recently been updated for the 2022 model year, but the Marlin 4 has remained basically the same, so this video will specifically focus on comparing the 2021 or 2022 Trek Marlin 4 and the 2021 Trek Marlin 5 with the Trek 820. Now the reason I'm comparing both the Marlin 4 and 5 with the 820 is that the 4 and 5 are basically the same bike except for a few key parts, which I'll talk about during the comparison. The 2022 Trek Marlin 5, on the other hand, is a pretty different bike that is more expensive, so I will not talk about that bike here, but I have made an entire video on it already, so check that out if you are interested. But let's get into the comparison by first talking about the prices. The Trek 820 is priced at $450 currently, and the Marlin 4 is priced at $530 or $560 depending on the model year. The Marlin 5 is then a little more expensive at $600. Next, I'm going to talk about the frames on these bikes. I won't focus much on actual geometry here since that's less important for these bikes, but what is important to mention is that the 820 uses external cable routing, has a steel frame, and is built to accept 26-inch diameter wheels. On the other hand, the Marlin uses internal cable routing to protect the cables and make the bike look nicer, and it uses aluminum, which is lighter in weight, and it accepts 29-inch diameter wheels in most frame sizes, although it does use 27.5-inch diameter wheels in the small and extra small sizes. For the components, I'm going to start by talking about the suspension forks. Both bikes use coil spring forks from SR Suntour, and both have quick release axles so you can take the front wheel off the bike easier. The 820 uses the M3030 fork for a 26-inch diameter wheel, which has 75mm of travel, while the Marlin 4 and 5 both use the XCE28 fork with 100mm of travel in most frame sizes, but less travel in smaller sizes for more comfort. Overall, both of these forks are entry level, but the fork on the Marlins is more capable and will be stronger. And then for the wheels, I'll talk about the rims and the tires as a whole. So the 820 uses 26-inch wheels from Bontrager, and Bontrager LT3 tires, which are 26 by 2.2 inches wide. These tires have a good amount of tread for light trails, but the larger 29-inch wheels on the Marlin bikes are lighter in weight and will both roll faster over terrain and will go over obstacles easier. The tires on the Marlins are also 2.2 inches wide, but the tread pattern is a bit less aggressive. For the brakes, the 820 uses rim brakes from Tektro, while the Marlin 4 uses Tektro mechanical disc brakes, and the Marlin 5 uses Tektro hydraulic disc brakes. Mechanical disc brakes provide much better stopping power than rim brakes, and hydraulic disc brakes provide even more stopping power and additionally do not require much maintenance after being set up. Hydraulic brakes also work better in all weather conditions. The rim brakes are, however, simpler and easier to adjust if they do need to be adjusted. Now, the last difference between these bikes that I'll talk about is the drivetrain. Now, all of these bikes actually use a pretty similar drivetrain since they have 3 gears in the front and 7 in the back for a total of 21 different speeds. For commuting purposes, this is not bad, but for actual mountain biking, this amount of speeds is unnecessary and actually means that there are more parts that can malfunction on your bike. The front and rear derailleurs, which are used to shift the chain onto different gears, are actually the same on all of these bikes, since they are Shimano tourney level derailleurs. These are the most entry-level derailleurs available from Shimano, so they will not shift as smoothly or quickly as most other derailleurs, but they get the job done. These bikes also use the same crankset, which is also a Shimano tourney crankset that has 24 teeth on the smallest chainring, 34 teeth in the middle, and 42 on the largest gear. Now, the differences in this drivetrain are in the cassette and the shifters. The 820 and the Marlin 4 both actually use a freewheel instead of a rear cassette, which is just cheaper to manufacture and has a narrower gear range. This freewheel has 14 teeth on the smallest cog and 28 teeth on the largest cog. The Marlin 5 instead uses a cassette, which has 2 less teeth on the smallest cog and 4 more teeth on the largest cog. Basically, what this means is that for the Marlin 5, there is an easier gear for pedaling uphill and a harder gear for pedaling faster. Then for the shifters, the 820 and Marlin 4 use different shifters, but they are both from Shimano and have a one-piece shifter and brake lever design, which uses less expensive parts and has a bulkier construction, while the Marlin 5 goes to the Shimano Altus shifters, which are more compact and built better. However, all of these shifters still do allow you to shift up to 3 gears at a time when going to an easier gear for pedaling. And the last difference I'll discuss is the weight. The Trek 820 has an official weight of 33.68 pounds or 15.28 kilograms, while the Marlin 4 weighs significantly less at 30.82 pounds or 13.98 kilograms, and the Marlin 5 weighs 31.84 pounds or 14.44 kilograms. But those are all the main differences between the Trek 820 and the Trek Marlin 4 and 5. I'm going to show the completed table now to highlight all of those differences, but for my overall thoughts, I would definitely recommend getting the Marlin 4 or 5 over the Trek 820. The 820 is a fine bike for commuting and general rough road riding, but if you want anything more capable than that, for only $100 more, you could get the Marlin 4, which has a much better frame and wheels that will roll faster and go over bumps a lot easier. If you are on a budget, the Marlin 4 is still a great option for a beginner mountain bike or a commuter bike, but the Marlin 5 is better if you want a better gear range for more efficient pedaling, and if you want those hydraulic disc brakes that work better overall. Besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and feel free to leave any comments or questions below, and I'll try my best to answer them all. And if you did like the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel. And as always, remember to keep biking.